Los Angeles causes U.S. homeless population to rise for the first time since 2010 thanks to skyrocketing rent prices. The U.S. homeless population increased for the first time in 7 years due to a surge in the number of people living on the streets in Los Angeles and other West Coast cities where a booming economy has sent rent prices skyrocketing. The U.S. now has 554,000 homeless people, marking a 1% increase from 2016, according to a new report from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. Of that total, 193,000 people said they were staying in vehicles, tents, the streets and other makeshift homes because they couldn't get a spot at a shelter. The unsheltered homeless population is up 9% versus 2 years ago. The HUD report emphasizes that the homeless population is much larger in cities on the West Coast. If the Los Angeles region was excluded from the report, the total homeless population would have actually gone down by 1.5% from 2016 versus the 1% increase that was reported. The homeless population is higher in cities on the West Coast because the region's strong economy has led to an increase in rent prices that has made housing largely out of reach for many lower-wage workers. Since 2015, 10 city and county governments on the West Coast have declared states of emergency in relation to the rise in homeless populations. In Los Angeles, the median price for a one-bedroom apartment climbed 4.8% year-over-year to $1,340 in July, according to a report from rental website Apartment List. Rent across all of California rose by 4.2% in July, versus the nationwide rise of just 2.9%. Lower-wage workers on the West Coast are having more difficulty finding a place to stay compared to 2 years ago, leaving many on the brink of living on the streets. A lot of people in America don't realize they might be 2 checks, 3 checks, 4 checks away from being homeless, said Thomas Butler Jr., who stays in a carefully organized tent near a freeway ramp in downtown Los Angeles. Butler said he was in transitional housing, a type of program that prepares people for permanent homes, for a while but mostly has lived on the streets for the past couple of years. Many people in California, Oregon and Washington say they have noticed an increase in the number of encampments sprouting up along freeways and rivers while local governments struggle to come up with money for long-term solutions. They also say that conflicts have arisen in communities over whether to crack down on street camping and even feeding the homeless. The overall homeless population in California, Oregon and Washington grew by 14% over the past 2 years. The part of that population considered unsheltered climbed by 23% to 108,000. The most alarming consequence of the West Coast homeless explosion is an outbreak of hepatitis A, a disease spread through a liver-damaging virus that lives in feces. The outbreak has affected Los Angeles, Santa Cruz and San Diego, the popular tourist destination in a county where more than 5,600 people now live on the streets or in their cars. The outbreak prompted California officials to declare a state of emergency in October. In booming Seattle, the unsheltered population grew by 44% over 2 years to nearly 5,500. The homeless service area that includes most of Los Angeles County, the epicenter of the crisis, saw its total homeless count top 55,000 people, up by more than 13,000 from 2016. 4 out of every 5 homeless individuals there are considered unsheltered, leaving tens of thousands of people with no place to sleep other than the streets or parks. By comparison, while New York City's homeless population grew to more than 76,000, only about 5% are considered unsheltered thanks to a system that can quickly get people a cot under a roof. In the West Coast states, the surge in homelessness has become part of the fabric of daily life. The Monty, a bar in the Westlake neighborhood near downtown Los Angeles, usually doesn't open until 8 p.m. because a nearby shelter requires people staying there to be in the building by 7, partner and general manager Corey Allen said. Waiting until after that to open means the streets outside are calmer. Allen said the homeless have come into his bar to bathe in the restroom wash basins, and employees have developed a strategy for stopping people from coming in to panhandle among customers. 78-year-old Theodore Neubauer sees the other side of it. Neubauer says he served in Vietnam but now lives in a tent in downtown Los Angeles. He is surrounded by thriving business and entertainment districts, and new apartments that are attracting scores of young people to the heart of the nation's second most populous city. "Well, there's $1 million view," he said. Helping those like Neubauer is a top policy priority and political issue in Los Angeles. Since last year, voters in the city and Los Angeles County have passed a pair of tax-boosting ballot initiatives to raise an expected $4.7 billion over the next decade for affordable housing and services for the homeless. HUD Secretary Ben Carson praised the region for dealing with the issue and not relying solely on the federal government. "We need to move a little bit away from the concept that only the government can solve the problem," he said. But Mayor Eric Garcetti said that insufficient federal funding for affordable housing and anti-homelessness programs are part of the reason for the city's current crisis. Los Angeles' homelessness crisis was not created in a vacuum, and it cannot be solved by LA alone, Garcetti said in a statement. The California counties of Sacramento, which includes the state capital, and Alameda, which is home to Oakland, had one-year increases of more than 1,000 homeless people. In contrast, the HUD report showed a long-running decline in homelessness continuing in most other regions. Nationally, the overall homeless number was down by 13% since 2010 and the unsheltered number has dropped by 17% over that 7-year span, although some changes in methodology and definitions over the years can affect comparisons. Places where the numbers went down included Atlanta, Philadelphia, Miami, the Denver area and Hawaii, which declared a statewide homelessness emergency in 2015. The Homeless Point-in-Time survey is based on counts at shelters and on the streets. While imperfect, it attempts to represent how many people are homeless at a given time. Those who work regularly with the homeless say it is certainly an undercount, although many advocates and officials believe it correctly identifies trend lines. The report is submitted to Congress and used by government agencies as a factor in distributing money for programs designed to help the homeless.